Good morning. Welcome to Champaign Unitarian Universalist Church. We're happy that you joined us all today. But, sorry, that's reading what I already said. Whoever you are, whatever your theological, spiritual, political, secular, religious orientation, or gender identity, you're welcome to worship here are in this community. Do we have any first-time visitors today? If you're comfortable, raise your hand. Before we get into announcements, I did want to take a moment to observe today the first day of LGBT History Month. So if you follow LGBTHistoryMonth.com every day this month, we're going to highlight different figure from LGBT culture that contributes. the world at large. We have a busy October month. Today, after service, the fall festival uptown in Rockland got moved to today because they're worried about getting rained out yesterday. So we're going to be heading up. Anyone who wants to come with us, we have a tent. We're going to be there from 1 to 5. Activity for kids. Coming up on October 12th, we have our intuitive meditation hour presented by Monday Halloween. I've gone. It's helped me relax. Sometimes maybe a little too much personally, and almost. But everyone else, I think, had a great time. I did too. The 14th, we have Justin Arena will be playing our coffee house. There'll be the doors open at 7. Justin will make stay at 7:30. There will also be an open mic between Justin's sets, but if you're playing or telling a story or a joke, please come by. Book club will be October 18th. The book will be that everyone's reading is Changing the World from the Inside Out. There's a Jewish approach to personal and social change and shopping. And then craft night will be October 26th at 6:30 p.m. here. Bring your craft and go with friends instead of alone. Are there any other announcements? Okay.
Morning. Rick did most of my announcements, but I do have a couple. You mentioned Fall Festival this afternoon. I do want to let everyone know they are shutting down Union Street and parts of Webster Street. Usually it's further down in the church at noon. So if you have a car somewhere in this area or uptown, you will have to remove it before noon, or they will start towing. Just so you all know. I'm going to be heading up at 11:30 to get set up, but if anybody wants to stop by and visit, the actual event begins at 1. Last week, we had the raffle for the ballet tickets, and after we drew the winners, Dana sent me 4 more tickets. So I'm going to give everybody a quick opportunity right at the end of the service to buy any more raffle tickets if they want. And I'm going to do the drawing real quick before I have to focus. I'll keep the names that are still in there from last week. So it's another opportunity to buy. I think that was it. So thank you.
Our associate minister, Dr. Reverend.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning. I'm delighted to be here. And I'm going to put your word right off the bat. I would like our opening words to be said by all of us together. And I want to tell you where this came from. The bold print came from the back of our hymnal. It's a standard opening words thing. And then I think many of you will recognize the other part of it from E.D. Cummings. And this afternoon, I am doing the opening words for an installation of the minister in Norwell Church. And they asked me to do the opening words, and I thought, what can I do that encompasses both sides of what we are, the history and the vision. And I wove these two together, and I thought they came out really well. I thought I'm going to get a little more knowledge. So I'm going to read the non-bold print, and I would ask you to respond with the bold print. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day. Therefore, let us in this place meet, and let it inspire them to feel your spirit. With the leaping, greening spirits of trees and a blue, true dream of sky. Into this place, with everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes.
Into this place, our prophecy and power, and let it sufficient.
Whereby we, the tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any, lifted from the no of all nothing, human merely being, don't, imaginable you. Let us all together as one celebrate this most amazing day. Let us all together as one celebrate and bless. And we say, stand and we'll let the challenge. Kindling this flame of our liberal heritage, let us open present. Thank you. Now our affirmation, our unison affirmation, which is found in our order of service.
Love is the doctrine of the church, and Christ's truth is and service to the prayer. It's well together. The knowledge and the humanity and need and with honor. Us to be covenant with each other.
Our opening hymn this morning is hymn number 33, Sovereign and Transforming Grace. And may I have the kids up here that would like to come up here, and then kids that don't want to come up here can stay in the pew and listen. That's okay. Okay. Thank you.
No, it's you say out loud, like, what is it? Heart. Then pass it around and give them all. Very, very light.
Thank you, Sacred.
Send it back.
I would have brought a ton of them, except that's really Valentine, and I didn't want to get big.
I am going to teach you all. Okay, let's take this little part and let's make sure we put it out right there. Is that a good place for? So, okay, I'm going to teach you a word today. And it's a Jewish word. And the word is mitzvah. You say mitzvah, 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 mitzvah. Mitzvah? Anybody know what it means?
Good deed, blessing.
A good deed, a blessing, a kindness, but there's something very special about a mitzvah. Anybody know? Mitzvah just isn't an ordinary kindness. Mitzvah is a very special kind of kindness. A mitzvah is a kindness you do without telling anyone. It's a surprise kind. Best kind of surprise you can ever do. So, I might see somebody who's struggling opening a door. Without saying anything, I might just go up and say, can I turn that knob? And then you turn the door knob, open the door, and you walk away. You don't wait. You don't wait for somebody to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You just do it as it needs to be done. For the person who leaves a plate of cookies outside someone's door, they're homesick. Would you love to open your door some morning and find a bit of cookies there? Nice. Huh. And you go, who gave it to you? Mitzvah is really the mitzvah. You just do it, you don't tell. You do it just because you can. And just because you see, your eyes are open, you see that it needs to be done. That's the other half of a mitzvah. Is being aware. Now, you folks that are going to stay are going to hear a lot about awareness. But aware means paying attention, looking around. How many of you have helped somebody out of a chair, giving your chair to somebody who needs it? You ever done that? I bet you have. You're very good. It's just looking around, see an older person on a bus with a bag of groceries, and somebody jumps up and says, "Oh, here, you take my stuff." That's a mitzvah. That's a mitzvah. So that's the word. What was the word again? Mitzvah. So what I want you to think of, I'm not going to ask you what it is because that's putting you on the spot now. But you go home, you too, and think about a mitzvah you can do. Just look around, not anything, but something you could do that would make something a little better than something else. I saw some one time I was at a concert and somebody had a coughing attack. And there's one single person playing one single violin on the stage. And this person is trying to stifle a cough. If you've ever tried to stifle a cough, it's awful. Well, somebody quietly reached in their purse, pulled out a cough drop, and just slipped it over. She didn't know the person who was coughing. The person who was coughing had no idea who the lady was at the end of the cough. That was it. So your work is to find a mitzvah you can do, and then do it. And it won't break the spell. The next time I come back here, you tell me. It's so mitzvah. It's
the time in our order of service when we share our candles of joys and concerns. That time set aside is part of our week to share our joys and listen to what the concerns of ourselves and others in the blessing of our gifts. And I would ask you, if you have a joy or concern and you wish to have Rick light a candle, pretend you're talking to someone outside the street beyond this wall, so that we can all. Okay, who has a joy or concern? Anyone? Yes,
Just for Sandy.
I didn't hear that.
For Sandy. Sandy.
Sandy,
David. Chris?
My big sister died a couple of months ago. She's what used to be known where I come from, the big gap lass. But she was exactly the same all the way through. She was like the best kind of possible. What you saw was what you got. She was like that all her life, right up to the age of 89. So, like kind of in memory of my big gap sister.
Julie, I believe you have a joy.
yes, I apologize, Chris. I had the congregation sign this, and then I forgot to mail it. But this is a get well card. We're grateful that you're
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
And Chris is here almost 3 weeks out of hip replacement, walking with just a cane. And a lot of warnings from me. But I am overjoyed that he is up on his hind legs and moving around. Would you like one more candle, a silent candle for those joys and concerns that we hold in our hearts? May we enter a time of silence together. There is something so holy about a shared, trusting silence. My pastoral reflection this morning, I want to tell you about it, comes from one of my writing students. I asked them to do a call and response to the title of a hymn, call and response, piece or poem. She is a poet. And it was so beautiful, all of us wanted to have a copy of it, and I asked permission if I could use it in service. And now I'm bringing it to you. It's by Carol Marniaco, and she is from Ottawa, Canada. In the fern-dense woods among the whispering trees, I pray for the beauty of the earth. In the sun, in the flower-filled meadows, surrounded by fragrant blossoms, I pray for the beauty of the earth. Among the sleek, hungry deer grazing in my own backyard, I bow and pray for the beauty of the earth. Last night, keeping watch with the pearl white moon, I pray for the beauty of the earth. When I read of the oceans dying as salmon and bees disappear, I pray for the beauty of the earth. Passing a tiny purple weed shivering in the wind, I shiver and pray for the beauty of the earth. When I look up at the fiery stars and wonder how long we'll be here, I pray for the beauty of the earth. When my heart stops remembering how fleeting and fragile it all is, I pray for the beauty of the earth. Today, clasping hands with a friend's new grandchild, I cannot help but pray for the beauty of the earth. May it be so. Now let us join together in singing Spirit of Life, which I believe is 123. when we give of what we have to help another without asking for praise, it's a mitzvah. We ask now that you give of your time and treasure for the wonderful work of this community.
Please stand as you're willing and able for the dedication of the peace. Find the words in order of service. Judy asked me to open or start with this reading from article from the Dayton Jewish Observer in 2015 by Candace Barr. We had it. Maybe not. Yeah. A Jew in the Christian world. Immortalized in the most popular of Christian folk hymns, Amazing Grace seems like an unlikely topic for a Jewish Bible study class. The word grace doesn't appear in Jewish vocabulary lists, on informational websites, or throughout indices of hundreds of Jewish print resources on basic Judaism, God, spirituality, Bible, theology, or values. And yet, it frequently appears in English translations of the biblical text. According to Strong's Concordance, an index of biblical words and their citations, the word grace appears 38 times in the King James Version of the Hebrew Bible. It's a translation for the Hebrew word, try to say this right, probably way off. Pen. However, pen, translated as grace or favor, appears any number of times in the text where it is translated as favor, or occasionally as gracious, precious, or pleasant. In the introduction to Noah, Genesis 6:8, pen is variously translated as follows. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, in King James Version. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord, in the New International Version. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. That's the Enterprise Hebrew literal. The word "hen" also appears when the estranged twins reconcile, Genesis 33. And Jacob requests Esau to accept his gift. If now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present. King James. If I have found favor in your sight, eyes, New Living Translation, fox and stone. How can these inconstant translations of pen be explained? The term pen derives from the Hebrew root meaning pardon, favor, graciousness, compassion, and mercy. In a biblical context, pen connotes the unmerited favor of one human toward another, or God toward humankind. It is numbered among God's principal attributes, pen, or gracious, or graceful, etc. Thus, while translations may vary in other respects in both Jewish and Christian Bibles, the use of the word grace always signals God's role as a main character, or implies God's behind-the-scenes involvement. In Christian theology, grace is unearned, the undeserved divine gift, unconditional love, mercy, favor, acceptance, forgiveness, sustenance, and salvation from God through Jesus to those who accept Him as Messiah and Savior. Romans 5 and Ephesians 2. This fundamental tenet is the cornerstone of Christian faith, memorialized in John Newton's famous lyrics, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. How precious did thy grace appear the hour I first believed." In Jewish thought, grace, more often expressed as God's loving kindness and mercy, is balanced by God's justice. Throughout the Torah is the notion that God's mercy is conditional upon our attempts to act in the image of God, to obey the commandments in the quest to repair the world. In Jewish thought, it is through doing that we open the door to tikkun olam, repair the world, and God's favor, mercy, forgiveness. In Christian thought, it is through believing that the door to God's grace, personal salvation, is open. 10. A tiny word to embody two fundamentally different religious philosophies, doing and believing, as a way to attain amazing grace.
Grace happens, but you gotta be good. The word grace can be used as a noun, as a verb, or not, and for not a few of us, a blessed assurance of everything which is infinite, which is natural, which is yes. And do those words sound familiar? Grace can refer to a smooth and pleasing way of moving, or polite and thoughtful way of behaving. When someone says they were late to the airport and only made it onto the plane by the grace of God, they're talking about grace in the context of God's favor or divine grace. I don't think that God cares about us getting to the airport on time, but some people do. But let's start with plain old ordinary grace. Grace the noun. The elegance and beauty of movement and expression. Think of the physical grace of a dancer, or the powerful grace of a runner or gymnast. Another noun, a sense of propriety and consideration for others. She accepted the reality of her situation with grace and dignity. Also, grace, a disposition to kindness and compassion. The winner's grace in his behavior towards the rest of the competitors was exemplary. And a verb, to grace something, to make it more attractive by adding ornament or color. The wedding table was further graced with flowers from the bride's own garden. She graced the occasion with her beautiful voice and witty repartee. And of course, there's the social graces. These are the skills needed for being seen as a polite and courteous member of society. If you are in someone's good graces, they regard you with favor. In Christian theology, grace is a state of sanctification as defined as being in complete union and harmony with God or the divine of your understanding, comma, bold letters, without your asking for it. Also in Christian theology, grace is the free and unmerited favor of the beneficence of God. And how can I not mention grace? The short prayer of thanks before a meal. Good food, good meat, good God, let's eat. How many of us have cackled that one and several other renditions of it? I don't find it all unusual that almost every religious tradition has some kind of definition or concept of divine grace, a blessing which is bestowed upon us without strings, without fear or favor. For my talk this morning, I will be referring mostly to the Christian tradition of grace as a state of sanctification, or being in complete union and harmony with God, or the divine of your understanding, or as some theologians would say, the holy other. Broadly speaking, and common to many traditions, grace, or more specifically, divine grace, is the sudden awareness or profound understanding of goodness or sublime integration that comes to you without ever asking. The experience of suddenly and without warning you and everything and everyone is in perfect harmony with all of existence. The key word here is awareness. Where do you get your grace if you or we don't hold a traditional view of a benevolent deity watching over us all of the time, just looking for an opportunity to dump some grace on us? Back to my talk of grace happens. Grace happens to all of us, mostly when we least expect it. But you've got to be quick if you're going to know just in. Many, if not most of us, have experienced a moment in time when we are surprised, caught unaware, or stopped in our tracks by a magnificent sunset or sunrise. Anybody? Just, or heard a piece of music or a line of poetry that takes us to a place we've never been before. Anybody out there? Take your breath. Like a flash of understanding that comes into our consciousness without our ever being aware of the issue that we all of a sudden understand. We get it. Where the skin of your body seems to melt away and you really are at one with everything. Hang on to that memory of that moment, because these experiences are fleeting. And sometimes when you're really in despair, calling up one of these moments, I remember that time I felt everything was all right, or that sunset that made me feel so at peace with the world. Tuck those in your emergency kit. Pull them out when you need them. Consider yourself lucky if you actually noticed. I repeat, noticed it, were aware of it, and were able to welcome that experience into your consciousness. Are you beginning to see where I'm going with this? That same sunset or chord progression or perfect running pace or getting lost in the rhythm of finishing a beautiful piece of wood that lifted you to another place, that took your breath away, the moment that was yours alone, because you alone were open to receiving it into your consciousness. You said yes to a question you didn't even know you were asking. Grace can happen, and we can totally miss it. Let it go right over our heads because we're so hyper-focused on the daily round, the to-do list, our own misery or anger. Awareness and willingness to let yourself be surprised by joy is a really good attribute, and one I think we all should work to develop. How many spiritual practices so popular today help and remind us to be aware? Yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, or the practitioners of any sport. You've got to be aware of your body. You've got to be aware of the weather. You've got to be aware of the people around you. Artists, musicians, and even a few clergy are continually telling us to give ourselves over to the moment, to experience and to live in the very moment. But grace doesn't have to come out of the blue. I don't believe it's the sole property of the gods of the universe, of the great father or mother of the golden calf to dispense, but it still takes awareness. Remember the conversation I had with the kids this morning, the word mitzvah. Part of doing a mitzvah is being aware that it needs to, something needs to happen, something, a kindness needs to be done. And the ultimate receiving of the mitzvah is letting it happen. Have any of you ever had the experience of wanting to help somebody? They say, oh no, that's not right. And you go away feeling a little bit, ooh, I'm that person. They didn't want me to help. Oh no. And you go. We can make grace happen. Anytime we see a need for it, an opportunity, an opening to do a kindness, or to bring another person's attention to something they might not be aware of. There's that word, awareness again. And the grace we make does not have to be on a grand scale. Any one of us has helped someone pick up something they dropped, offered a seat on a conveyance to someone who needs it more than you do, rescued an injured animal, or made an unasked for donation to an organization that helps animals or hungry people or the unhoused. This morning, I'm asking you and us to be even more aware than we already are, and you make a practice of being aware. More so than most. We don't take anything on hearsay. We want to know why. And that's the awareness factor. Be aware on two levels. The grace that is bestowed upon you, wonders and miracles and deep understandings that come to you because you are open to. And the grace you yourself bestow. Practice random acts of kindness and senseless joy. You've heard this before. And even read it on bumper stickers. And sadly, in many areas of our living, random acts of kindness and senseless joy seem to be a thing of the past, or currently out of fashion. Pick up that coffee container that somebody else thoughtlessly dropped. And more importantly, don't berate them for it. Just do it. Do it for the love of the environment, for the beauty of the town or the woods. For your own satisfaction. Never hesitate to ask if someone needs help. Don't wait. Anyone can say, no, thank you, or even get grouchy, but at least you asked, and you know you meant well. And that is an instant feel-good moment for you. That's okay. It's okay to feel good that you've done something good. Give yourself a little pat on the back. It's all right. It's all right. A mitzvah, grace bestowed is grace received. A mitzvah for yourself, a goodness that you don't talk about, that you do because you can. Because anyone and anyone, animal, vegetable, and our blessed Mother Earth is deserving of our kindness and our consideration and our awareness, simply because they exist. I'm going to close my talk this morning with a story that I found that pretty much says it all. Christian author Timothy Paul Jones tells the story of taking his adopted daughter to Disney World, and I have edited this. And he titles it, Because I'm Yours. I never dreamed that taking a child to Disney World could be so difficult, or that such a trip could teach me so much about God's outrageous grace. Our middle daughter had been previously adopted by another family. After a couple of rough years, they dissolved the adoption, and we ended up welcoming an 8-year-old to our home. For one reason or another, whenever our daughter's previous family vacationed to Disney World, they took their biological children with them, but they left their adopted daughter with a family friend. Usually, at least in the child's mind, that happened because she did something wrong that precluded her presence on the trip. And so by the time we adopted our daughter, she'd seen many pictures of Disney World, and she'd heard about the rides and the characters' grades. But when it came to passing through the gates of the Magic Kingdom, she had always been the one left on the outside. Once I found out about this history, I made plans to take her to Disney World. What I didn't expect was the prospect of visiting this dream world would produce a stream of downright devilish behavior in our newest daughter. In the month leading up to the trip to the Magic Kingdom, she stole food, she lied when it would have been easier to tell the truth, she whispered insults that hurt her older sister, and as the days on the calendar were closer to the trip, her mutinies only multiplied. A couple of days before our family headed to Florida, she said, "I know what you're going to do. You're not going to take me to Disney World, are you?" The thought hadn't actually crossed my mind. But her downward spiral suddenly started to make sense. I asked her, "Is this trip something we're doing as a family?" She nodded. Her brown, wide eyes, tear-rimmed. "Are you part of this family?" She nodded again. "Then you're going with us. You're part of this family, and we're not going to leave you behind." I'd like to say that her behavior grew better after that moment, but they didn't. Her choices pretty much spiraled out of control all the way to Disney. Once there, it was a typical Disney day. Overpriced tickets, overpriced meals, and lots of wines, mingled with just enough manufactured magic to even possibly consider maybe going again sometime. In our hotel room that evening, a very different child emerged. She was exhausted, pensive, and a little weepy at times, but her month-long facade of rebellion had faded. When bedtime rolled around, I asked, "So how was your first day at Disney World?" She closed her eyes and snuggled down into my arms, and after a few moments, she opened her eyes ever so slightly and said, "Daddy, I finally got to go to Disney World, but it wasn't because I was good. It's because I'm yours. It wasn't because I was good. It's because I'm yours." That's the message of outrageous and amazing grace. Now, we use, some of us hold to a higher power, some of us call that higher power God. But goodness can come to us, unannounced, uncalled for, unasked for, moments of deep, profound understanding. And all we can do is say yes. I have been known to be driving along and see a beautiful sunset, a massive fall of trees that takes my breath away, and open the car window and yell out, "Thank you." Because I want to acknowledge my gratitude for that moment. But that's not necessary, that's just me being me. But these wonderful, marvelous moments come to us if we are ready for them. We are ready to accept it. We're ready to let go of complete control of what gets in. Sometimes just let something flow in, be amazed by it. Listen. Closing hymn, which is not at all surprising, is number 205, Amazing Grace. Please stand if you're willing to give. We'll distinguish our chalice and stand and read prayer, distinguishing of the chalice prayer in your word service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. But the fire that these we bear in our hearts. Please. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Blessed be, go in peace.